Once again, Cedric spins around the column. +1 on bless. He lets out a Eldritch Blast for a natural 20, plus Hex, plus Fury of the Spawn. Cedric peers around, sees his newly found teammates struggling like mad with this ferocious little beastie. And try as they might, they haven't been able to subdue it, and it keeps pounding his teammates into the dust. And Cedric reaches back, curling his hand into a fist, and a negative spectrum of light first appears in his eyes, separating through his veins, channeling down into his hand, and a huge crackling aura of eldritch energy leaps from his fist, going straight into the very center of the creature.
And you see after your hit, you puncture somewhere inside it as it engulfs your force damage. You see it starts to move a little bit, tries to kind of like pulsating, convulsing, and the creature just falls apart, revealing Finn.
Cedric will quickly trot down the stairs, wading through the beastie and attempting to grab hold of Finn. And if we are out of combat, the first thing Cedric does is lays his hands on Finn's cheeks, either side of her face, and he's going to cast Spare the Dying.
If we're out of combat, Carillon would lay his hands on Finn and heal her 15 points of health with lay on hands.
The creature is dead. The chanting disappeared.
Is she alive?
Suddenly, the chanting stopped. You heard as the creature fought a last gasp of the baby cry. And now it's awed silence in the dungeon.
Carillon will attempt to offer his hand to Finn to help her up.
Finn takes Carillon's hand, and she just looks him in the eye and just kind of nods before turning her gaze to Knos. Last time she saw him, she was convinced he was dead, and she just, blank expression, just walks over to him and doesn't say a goddamn word. She just wraps her arms around him and just rests her head on his shoulder and just breathes.
Gnash just stands her, not holding her back, but after like a couple of seconds, 5 or 6, he slightly hacks her back and pats her on the back.
Brother.
Ooh.
God. Fuck.
Cedric is going to take about 5-10 feet back. He's going to turn his back on the group, put his hand up against a stone wall, and he's going to vomit.
As you guys standing there, it's odd that suddenly, like moments ago, it seems death is imminent and actually some gonna die, but now a fresher air and he seems to can relax. Like Gnus just was on the verge of death, or Finn was on the verge of death.
Cedric's going to take a moment to collect himself, rubbing his hand over his mouth, turns around, and he's got very obvious tears in his eyes, looking at the group as they're composing himself. Then he looks down at the dead creature and he throws his hand out, and then his next hand, and then his next hand, and he keeps firing eldritch blasts into the creature with a very visible look of rage in his eyes.
Another like pulsating stuff just pops out. It's like popping a sit, but it does not react to you.
I think we should burn the house now.
I think we should burn this fucker. And Cedric pulls out his hand, clicks his fingers, and casts bonfire, and the creature starts to burn.
Holy fucking shit. Give me a wire.
Wait! And Cedric looks up at Crow. You want to burn this place? And a very small, kind of gallows humour grin goes over Cedric's face. You've changed your tune.
This thing, he gestures with his short sword, this was in the lowest depth of the basement, and the heart of whatever this ritual was. Maybe now, burning the house will destroy it.
Just give me a moment. And as Cedric steps over to the mound of stuff that the creature emerged from, he kind of parts his hand, and the bonfire that's on the mound sputters out and disappears, and Cedric's gonna start rifling through whatever is there.
You do find, of course, lots of nastiness, but in the pile of it, you see a dead baby.
Cedric is blocking the team's view, and his shoulders kind of sag, and then he starts to kind of spoon the mound back over the dead baby, and without turning, he, Crail, come here!
Crail walks over.
Without making eye contact, it's Walter the baby. It's his body underneath my hands, and Cedric is keeping his hands pressed down over the mound. Should we do something, or should we destroy it?
We should see if he too had a coffin in the crypt prepared for him. I doubt that he wanted to become this thing.
Right, well, the thing is, I'm not really good with death, and this is freaking me the fuck out, so I'm about to stand up in about 5 seconds, and I'm gonna walk away, and we're gonna pretend that everything's okay, and don't tell the others. And without looking, Cedric just slowly pulls his hands back and walks off, and he's got a very faint expression on his face. He is very swaying in his movements, goes over to a stone pillar, and has a little panic attack.
Crail will take his bedroll out of his backpack and wrap baby Walter up in it.
Guys, what are you doing over there? Can we leave now?
Get the fuck out of here.
Yes, that.
Cedric wants to go and pick a fight with Pelagus. But at the moment, Cedric is just pressed up against the stone pillar, collected himself, being filled with absolute rage.
Knas just whispers under his breath, Pelagius Druidus the Third.
As the group are moving through the chamber with the 13 random items, as Cedric's passing each item, they erupt in flame as he continues to cast bonfire and starts destroying everything.
Yes, Cedric! I can't believe we're finally fucking doing this! Let's burn this bitch down! Oh! And Finn, as we're walking, she pretends she can still cast firebolt. And she just points her finger at each item and goes, boom!